being recorded. So,
Okay. Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Albert Kabanda and I'm a PhD student at Northwestern. So basically my concentration is in seismology and I'm working on subsurface imaging of the crust and upper mantle within the East African, western branch of the East African rift system. So um, recently I joined this panel and I'm one of the student rep. So we decided to at least think about a workshop that can try to give a few techniques to those interested in um, applying for OSPA this year and then maybe later. And me and Cindy, who is my colleague working on this. So yeah, we try to set it up and we see what happens. So we decided to invite a few volunteers who at least have been there, who uh, won last year, and that's the guys who are going to be talking to you. And I think they will introduce themselves, and if there's anything I left behind, Cindy can take it from there.
cool. So I guess we can start with Sifang, Cecilia, then Avi.
So hi everyone. I'm Stefan and I'm currently a third year graduate student from Chicago. And also I'm working on seismology. So currently I have two main projects. One is about using those data sets collected from lab-quake experiments based on 3D printed Earth models to study the ground motions. And the second one is about the co-seismic displacements, those surface displacements following earthquakes. And I focused on those intermediate and deep earthquakes. And I think every year the fun thing about AGU is that you can meet with many new friends and meet many um, people from different countries. So that's something quite interesting.
So, hi everyone, I'm Cecilia Duran. I did my PhD at ETH Zurich and I finished recently. And now I continue working there, but doing a postdoc and closing some projects and trying to finish finally with these topics. And so during my PhD, I mainly work in seismology on Mars with data from the InSight mission, which may sound interesting, but it's quite a little amount of data and really bad quality. So it's quite suffering. So I envy all the Earth people. And yeah, I really enjoy you. It's not only, I mean, it's also a lot of like getting to know new people, getting to know about topics that I haven't ever listened to or that's super interesting. But it's also nice to expose your work to a completely different audience and get some like feedback that's actually amazing. So I actually really enjoy going the last 2 years. Yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Avi. I am also a PhD student at the Nevada Seismological Laboratory. My work basically encompasses stuff like earthquake early warnings, ground motion predictions, and earthquake source properties in general. Um, One of the things that I particularly like about AGU is the fact that one of the things that Cecilia touched upon is like you can talk to a diverse set of audience. Like at times we get very shelled into our own little bubbles, and we keep talking to the same people over and over again, and in a sense it becomes like an echo chamber. So AGU basically gives you that fun thing where you can talk to people who are part of earth sciences but have never done anything remotely related to seismology ever, and you can get their opinions, and it just helps you get better feedback. So that's always fun to me.
Cool. Thanks for the introductions, everyone. So we can now start with Sifang, who I think has prepared a few slides about how they've done their talk at last year's AGU. So take it away.
Oh, I think it's disabled, like screen share.
Yep, you can go ahead.
You're on to my screen now.
Yep, all good.
Okay. Okay, so I think I don't need to redo the self-introduction, so I will just share with you guys some red suggestions about oral talk from my advisor, some previous AG workshops, and based on my personal experience. So first, something about OSPA I have to say is that it is a highly uncertain process. So like whether you have a responsible reviewer or whether you are in a popular field will definitely influence results. And it doesn't mean that but it doesn't mean that OSPA is not useful or not important. So I have some advice about the OSPA process. So first, try to not take those comments personally from your reviewers, especially some of them can be aggressive. But I think most judged from seismology sessions are quite good or quite nice. Just care those useful comments since you want to use them to polish your work, polish up your work. And also try to pay attention to the process of preparing a talk and poster. So meaning that the OSPA itself is not that important, but the process of attending it is very important and fruitful. So that's just some general things about OSPA. And I will just talk about how to make some slides and prepare your presentation about the oral talk at AGU. So first, try to make it audience-centric for your slides. So an example is that think about this question: are the audience in your session familiar with the background and method of your work? And are they familiar with motivation, significance of your work? So for example, if you're in a seismology, so if your work is about seismology, but submitted them to a session in the geodesy or some other sessions not tightly associated with seismology, then people may not be familiar with it and can kind of confused during the following subsequent slides of your talk. So that's the reason why in my not last year talk, but some previous talks, I will need to do some modification to the slides to make it looks easier to those people from other sessions. So here is a slide about the intro page in the talk about the surface displacements generated by intermediate and deep earthquakes. So if it is in a seismology session, I can directly show this figure and everyone will know what I'm talking about, like the definition of intermediate and deep earthquakes and the map view of the ground displacements. But since that year, I've submitted this to the geodesy community, especially those people playing with the satellite data, like data processing process. So they don't really know about the earthquakes and surface displacements themselves. Then I have to start from the very beginning of the basic definition of such surface displacements. So this is just an example of the audience-centric. So the ideal case is that you will make all the figures, all the discussions in your slides to be that, to follow this rule, like care about your audience, but not just talk in the general way, like assume that your audience know all the background info. So this is the first point. And I think it's very important to try to not include everything in your slides and also poster, especially given the time limit at AGU. It will be commonly about 8 to 10 minutes. And that means we need to pick the most important info and put the most important info into your slides and the poster. And example is here. So in some of my previous talks, I will just, these are the slides I really used in the talk, but it doesn't mean that I only have results like that. Some other results, they are also interesting to discuss, but just they're too much info and I cannot include them. So you need to do some like selection to choose the most important and most interesting thing and put them in your slides. And that will make you fulfill the time limit here at AGU. And I think the other point is that try to have a clear takeaway page. it's quite challenging for everyone to be engaged during the whole talk. It's not blaming any audience. I think it's common for human beings to lost concentration during a talk. So at least you need to have a clear takeaway page to make people know what you are talking about, and try to repeat the most important conclusions to make them understand the main thing that you want to convey. And still an example from a previous year, like AGU talk, so last year. So in this conclusion page, I try to include some leading sentence about main conclusion I have in my study. And also I try to include some bullet points to highlight most interesting observations we have from our slides, from our work. And I also use some figures to help people understand this bullet points and the main conclusion. So it works well. And I think it's a good way for people to finally highlight some work or some words that you want people to take away, and at least it can be some info that's helpful, even if they get lost during the talk. Okay, so this is about some general points about the slides. And the final point about slides I want to make is taking advantage of animations. So it is the biggest difference. I think it's the biggest difference between a slide, between a talk and a poster presentation. So using these animations, you can do step-by-step explanation of your models, methods, and such things, and which makes things much easier for people to understand. And also try to properly modify the figures, like the font size or such things, to make the figures more readable. So here is an example from some previous slides. Here I'm trying to introduce people to the seismic phases that I'm interested in my work before. And this is a velocity structure, the velocity structure of the model that I've used in the study. So I will first tell people that I'm going to zoom into this left basin region, which is showing in the yellow color, and further zooming to the detailed basin structures. And then I can tell them I will focus on this basin steps with clear change in their basin depths. And I will tell them that I want to pay attention to this signals that potentially reflected back from such complicated basin interface structures. So by doing this step-by-step animations, it's easier for people to understand, or for your audience to understand what you are talking about, and it's much easier for them to digest all the data sets or plots here. So this is the point I want to make here. So animations and figures are much better than texts. But it doesn't mean texts are not important at all. So we need to still use text if they're necessary, like for takeaway info or some things that we want to highlight, like the scatter waves that I've used here. But that's just some general points I think can be helpful for the slides of an oral presentation. And besides the slides, I also want to talk something about the presentation itself. So first, try to make it simple. So as I've said, we cannot assume all the audience to know very well about the background info and the method of your study. So try to dive deep and flow back later. Or remember to do that, since at least you can use some plain language summary to help people understand what you are talking about, to help people engage, and also try to avoid the ambiguity. It's for the same word, like the co-seismic deformation, it can have different meanings in the different communities. Like in the geodesic community, people will consider this co-seismic deformation as a surface displacement from an earthquake. But in the earthquake physics community, they may consider this co-seismic deformation as a slip on the fault plane. So this may make some people get confused in the following discussion. So try to have some extra explanation or use some other words to avoid such ambiguity and make your talk more clearer. And I also want to say, try to use some words to distinguish your work from others. These are the three main questions I think we should answer in the talk and also poster. So why do we care your study? What has been done before? And what's new in your study? So if you can answer these three questions, then I think most people won't at least have any question about about the motivation of your work. Okay, and finally, I think, oh, not finally, the final, last 2 points is that I think we need to pay attention to the flow of the talk. So try to make the logic of your talk to be clear, and then people won't need to jump back and forth to try to understand what you are talking about. So that's another point I want to make. And finally, I think it's good to keep consistent in your talk and also posters. Try to think about the word choices, use the same words for some similar physical quantities or such things in your talk, and use similar colors for the same things and font size. This will all make your talk easier for people to follow, since they don't need to learn something new during your talk, and also poster presentations. So that's the final thing I want to make about the presentation. And really final thing is about some preparation about our talk at AGU. So just keep in mind the time limit about the talk. It's about 8 minutes and plus a 2-minute Q&A. But it's kind of flexible depending on it depends on the convener of your sessions. Maybe some of them will let you do a 10-minute talk as well. And for your talk, try to make it fluent. Don't recite anything and speak slowly. This will make it much easier for your audience to understand and also make yourself sounds more confident. And besides that, I think it's important, or it's a way for you to polish a talk. So you can try to dictate your practice talk to see if there are any breakpoints, and also to see if there are any word choice issues or expression issues that you can you can modify before you give the real talk. So that's something can be helpful. And for the iPoster system, so last year, I think if they keep it the same, then the iPoster system will have your talk automatically uploaded after AGU. So you don't need to do anything before AGU for your iPoster gallery if you are given an oral presentation. But you can also try to upload an advertisement slide or recorded talk on your own. So that's something I've done in last year at AGU. So you can try to do something similar, like advertise the time and the room of your talk. And I think final point I want to make today is that try to think about some possible questions for Q&A before you really give the poster or oral presentations. It will help you to prepare some backup slides based on the questions as well. And thinking about these possible questions can also make you be more prepared for the Q&A session, which can be the most nervous parts during a real presentation, I feel like. Okay, so that's all what I have for today. So I think I will stop my screen share now.
Cool. Thanks for that, Sifang. Now we can let Cecilia share their screen and talk
Yeah,
about.
once. Sorry, I'm trying to share the screen. 1 second. So now I have connection problems. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, amazing. We can see it.
Yeah. Perfect. So for those that arrived a little bit late, I'm Cecilia Duran, and I did my PhD mainly working on seismic data from Mars. That's where the picture comes from. And well, last year I won an OSPA based on my poster. This is a screenshot of the poster, but I want to highlight first one thing. I applied for the OSPA 2 years in a row, 2022 and 2023. And actually in 2022, I got really good feedback that actually applied to for the next year. And that was one of the big changes that allowed me to actually win last year. And so besides the part of the winning or not winning, I think it's an amazing experience because you get really good feedback on how you presented your results. Um, not only from the point of view of like, okay, your talk or your poster itself, like what is there, but also how you express yourself, how you explain, how you're able to transition from one topic to another, and so on. So I really encourage you in general to try to apply to this type of awards. And another thing I want to say is like the poster is the same as a talk, it's quite personal. So I designed my own poster here, as you see, and this is using Google Slides. And there's nothing special, nothing really fancy, just figures, text, and so on. And I will focus on a couple of important points that I have seen, how I felt that they were important for me. But just for you to know, there are a lot of resources in the AGU webpage. You should really look at those. I mean, when I was building this poster, I was trying to follow all the regulations of which font size you should use, which is the minimum, which is I mean, this type of details, they help really a lot to build a poster or a talk. So what is important, what I will say now, it will overlap quite a lot to what was just presented for the talk. I mean, most of the points can be applied for both talks and posters, but in general, try to divide your presentation or your poster in really clear sections. So as you see here, there is a clear introduction, in my case, data, processing, results, and conclusions. So try to divide it like this, not also for the public, but also for yourself. Try to make it okay. Look at the points individually from each other and try to see, okay, what are the most important parts? And obviously, you will, I mean, it's not possible to put everything that you do. And sometimes it's like to be sad because you feel like there are a lot of effort that you put on this project that won't be there and no one will see it, but still it's worth it to show something and the main points of it. And try to show also not only, I mean, there may be stuff that you also did for this project, but it's quite complicated. So try to focus on simpler plots or simpler way to express or demonstrate what you did. That's quite important. And then this is something important and it's related to what was previously presented. Make an introduction. You always need an introduction, something clear for the poster or for the talk or for the lightning talk. And the most important thing is that you state really clear your motivation and your goals. I mean, why do you do this? What is the difference with other studies? And what is your goal? Sometimes it's nice to try to express this clear from the beginning so people can come and you can actually express, okay, I wanted to do this and this is the reason why I want to do this. And in my case, it was pretty useful for me. I found it like interesting after looking at some other posters to highlight the most important information. So if you look here, for example, I mean, I try to highlight important words because this is what I have been using or I will use in this study. So people, when they come, they can actually look at this. And I mean, these words draw that quite the attention, like bodies, surface waves. And for example, in my case, I just highlighted the main goal or summary of what is it? Yeah, what we do in this study. It was a way to kind of like, not only for people to understand really quickly what we are doing, but also for myself. So when they come actually, and I need to explain the poster, I could actually focus on following a logical sequence by just going through the most important words that are highlighted. Second, and I try to go a little bit fast with this stuff, but once we divide the stuff in different sections, I mean the poster, for example, in this case, for example, this is my second section of the poster, which is the data section. And we need to explain, this is particularly applied to data, but obviously there are completely different topics and you should actually adapt it to whatever you're doing, but try to explain why we use this, why we use this type of data, why not. So try to explain this motivation, because sometimes I find it a little bit like empty when someone says we do this and this, but they don't express themselves why they do that or why they use this type of data. So I find it quite motivational and nice to say it. And another thing that I found pretty useful, at least for me, I mean, obviously this may not apply for everyone, but to try to pose stuff as questions. For example, here, how does a Martian day look like? Why am your nose? And this is because when I'm going through the poster, when someone comes and I explain, I give an introduction, okay, we do this and this and this, but why do we apply this? And I found it like easier for me to follow a logic sequence or make it more natural if I could actually state some questions. And last, it was, I mean, regarding this, it was also mentioned before, but try to play a little bit with the font size, types, and the colors. In this case, for example, I put a few captions in different colors, a little bit smaller because they are less important. I highlight the important words, as I mentioned before. Try to do it this way to make it a little bit more dynamic, not a plain text and nothing else. So obviously it doesn't need to look like a rainbow, but I found it also, but I mean, not only for the people, but also for me, easier to follow, easy to focus in the most important stuff, why we do it, and so on. And maybe the last two things I want to say is regarding the poster itself. As I mentioned before, it's quite important to follow the guidelines that AGU has online. They are really useful. Don't underestimate them. Again, try to highlight important stuff as I show here. Maybe I didn't mention it before. This is, for example, an A0 poster. It is giant. It's really large. But for me, it allowed me to put a lot of information, so it was pretty practical. If you do a smaller poster, obviously you need to reduce the amount of text, and this is also part of the AGU presenter guidelines. Try to not cluster a lot of text and try to explain what you show every time. I like if I put a figure that there is a small description of the figure or something, so people can actually approach the poster and try to understand themselves what is going on. And try to follow some kind of coherent story, so follow the story as it happened. So, and this involves obviously practice. It will happen, it happened to me, it happened to all of us. We make a poster, we go through it, and we realize, oh, this doesn't make sense in the sequence. It makes it more difficult to explain. So let's just change and play around. So practice it, go through it, maybe realize, oh, this is more too complicated for someone to understand. And so yeah, it's just quite important tips regarding when you make the poster. And for the presentation, giving a poster is not only about the poster itself and how fancy, nice, or which results you put, but it's also about how you present the stuff. And I know HU is giant. There are a lot of people from completely different backgrounds, and it is quite important, I found, to ask when someone comes, ask their background, ask them, okay, what do you do? What do you study? And I'm saying that because I'm doing seismology on Mars, and I have had people that are experts in seismology on the moon or the Earth. This is easy, it's amazing to present. And then I had people that were like, no, I do hydrology. And then you need to go, okay, let's just start explaining what are body waves, what are we looking at? So try to always adapt to different people and ask them. I mean, start with a quick talk also makes it easier for you to give the presentation of the poster and maybe break the ice. And also, even if there are people that within the seismology topic, for example, and how much do they know exactly about this? How much do they know about the data? Just all of you need to be like, take into account that you are the experts, no one else. So don't assume that anyone knows anything. Just start from the most basic. Okay, do you know what is going on Mars? How many stations we have? And these type of easy questions will allow you to kind of adapt to how much you need to go into, deep into the topics or not. Take breath. Don't give the presentation. In my opinion, it's nice to not give a presentation in a whole like sequence without stopping, but actually give a little bit of introduction. Okay, try to make a small talk. Try to break the ice a little bit. Ask the person, okay, do you follow me or something like that? Because just you need to take into account that it's a lot of information, and maybe for you it's just something that you know by heart at this point, but the rest of the people don't. So try to go slow, step by step, and stopping and asking different questions. And yes, that's regarding, the saying all of this is, summarize is adapt. Adapt to the people. Don't give a presentation that is memorized for a poster. Just try to, obviously practice it before, but try to change the presentation according to the public. And that makes it far more interesting. And enjoy AGU and your poster. So this is everything.
Cool. Thanks, Cecilia. That was very helpful. So we can now move on to Avi.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. I think the way I'm gonna talk about this is Cecilia and Shifang has done a great job talking about tips and suggestions. So I'm just gonna talk about what I did to go through my poster last time around, what worked for me, what was my feedback, and how to address those things in real time. So, as some of the other moderators on the or like presenters on the panel mentioned, I had also applied for OSPA like 3 times in a row, and it was only on my third time that I got awarded. So, it's as people already mentioned, it's highly uncertain. It's really hard to kind of get a handle on what are the exact things that need to be done to for someone to get awarded at times. Like I've s- I have seen from personal experience that the OSPA reviewers are pretty random, so people just sign up to review whatever they want to. And because AGU is huge, at times like reviewers actually don't even make it to your poster. And that's unfortunate, but that's also the harsh reality of how things are. So, if you don't get it, it's not the end of the world. You can try again next time and, just do your best. Um, so some of the things that I, over the years that I, learned from the feedback that I got from reviewers was, uh, firstly, be prepared with a very quick overview of your if you're doing a poster, especially if you're doing a poster, like be prepared with a very quick overview of what the main objective of the study is. So it's almost like your elevator pitch for the poster. So it should be like a quick 1 to 2 minutes like rundown of like what your work is, like hitting on the important notes. um the second thing is like always make sure that you introduce the topic, and then when you again conclude the topic, you circle back to the introduction in some sense, like so this is what I promised that I will be looking at, or what I want to do, and this is what I did. So that's very important to close that circle in some sense. um uh, Also in terms of just making a poster, I am a big fan of putting as little text as possible. Different people have different strategies. This is not the only strategy that sh- that should work. But I'm personally a big fan of not including too much text. Instead, focus more on the figures itself. So one of the things that I feel is very important, also not just like as a presenter, but also someone who is like walking up to posters in general, is it is not possible for you to be at your poster 24/7, right? So in some sense, you'd also have to make a poster with the intention that, there would be times when I'm not going to be there. But even when I'm not there, can this poster be interpreted by, bystanders or viewers who come at that point? So one way of making sure you do that is, you know, making sure that you have the right figure labels. Like, it's very important to have figure labels because, you have made this plot, you've made this figure, you know everything about it. But it's also very important to, have like a couple sentences that summarize exactly what that figure is telling you. And that's one thing that I realize is very important. The second thing is like, have a very, precise workflow, or like, the way, so like lay out your poster in a way so that it is very easy to follow. Like, so say for example, the poster that I have here, it goes from like, left to right in some sense. So you have your objectives overview, and then you have a taste of the methods, and then a taste of the results, and then conclusions. So the way I would suggest is like, work on making this workflow where it flows very smoothly from the introduction to the conclusion. One of the other things that I would also suggest people do is, whenever you're talking about your poster, be it in like, an oral session or like a poster session, one of the things that has helped me immensely is this theory called ABT, which basically stands for and, but, therefore. So what that basically means is that when you're talking about your research or introducing your research, so you just talk about, so like, oh, so these are the things that has been done, and this has been done, but there is this research gap that I'm trying to address, and therefore I am presenting this particular method or this particular opportunity, yeah, uh, like this particular methodology that I'm trying to use to fill in that research gap. So it is very important to, I wouldn't say like, this is the only way to present your introduction, but this has helped me present my talks and posters. And also, it is very helpful for me also to, write my papers in some sense. Uh, the other thing that I would suggest people do is, be very, very, careful about your font sizes. It is at times like, lost on us when we're just like, looking at our like talks and like presentations and posters on our own computer screen. And you feel that, oh, okay, so this looks fine. Like this is, I can read it, so everyone else can read it. Don't make that assumption. A poster, especially for a poster and a talk, like, make sure your figure labels are big enough so that, you would have, if you're giving a talk, you would have most of the people sitting at the very back. Uh, in that case, like, the figure labels are almost illegible at times. Make sure your figure labels are, big enough. If it's a poster, I would suggest take advantage of the entire poster board. Um, I think like the dimensions for the AGU poster is 6 feet by 4 feet, if I'm not too wrong. But it's somewhere close to that number. Like take advantage of the entire 6 feet by 4 feet poster board. And once you make a poster that large, you'd also have to scale your these titles and figure labels and stuff like that. So there, I would strongly urge, people preparing their posters to go through the AGU recommended, like font styles, font sizes and stuff like that. And, I would follow that to the, to the very, to the word, I would say. So I did exactly that. Also make sure that, say for example, you have all of these titles, make sure that, you're following the same fonts. I have seen at times like posters, especially, have different kinds of font styles. And that's the just like to me, it just shows that, this was done in a hurry. Maybe it was not done in a hurry, but it just like, gives the wrong impression. So that's one thing that I would suggest. And also like, a lot of people I have seen kind of get too nervous or bothered about like, also, but I don't really have very strong results to present. That's fine. Like that's the whole point of like, giving a poster or a talk at AGU. It's like, if you want to present, finished work, like you can just, give an invited talk somewhere else, like an AGU session or like SSA, whatever. It's you attend those meetings to get feedback. So it's absolutely fine to, be in the preliminary stage of your research. But, what is more important is that you have a very good handle of the question that you're trying to answer through your research. You might not have the most accurate results at the time of presenting your poster, but you should be able to talk about what are the things that have not gone your way, and what are the things that you plan to do. So in that case, like and in that way, you should be prepared with some of the more popular literature that's associated with your research. So if some reviewer comes up to you, or like not just a reviewer, so like some other like person who's interested in your work comes up to you and asks you a question, you you don't like you have to make yourself seem that you are somewhat of an expert in the topic of your research. So be ready to answer questions about previous research, or it's also not possible to know everything about your area of research. Like we're all PhD students in some sense, or like in some cases masters or undergrads, so it is not possible to know everything. So in that case, like be very honest about it. Like yeah, that's a good point. I haven't really heard about this paper that you're talking about, but can you let me know the author name or the journal or the year when it was published, and I'll make sure to take a look. So that's something that's very important. And the last thing is like try to have a conversation if you're presenting a poster. Like don't be too stiff about like oh, I have to go from point A to point B in so much time. Like that's like some flexibility that you have if you doing a poster, but try to have a conversation, try to know the person who's to whom you're presenting, introduce yourself, and like it just makes it so much more easier to present after you've done that. um with that being said, I think like we're kind of like running close to the end of the session, so we should probably take questions from some of the attendees.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that, Avi, and I would like to thank the whole panel. That was very, very useful. And I think we could go through the submitted questions. I think there's one question in chat, but we can go through that as we open up the panel. Um, so can everyone see this screen? Cool. So from the submitted questions, they were some people asking, are the OSPA judges going to come to my poster in person? Would you know? So if anyone can take that question.
I think it depends. So some of them will come in person. Some will just do this virtually, since you will upload something, especially if you're doing a poster presentation. And some won't even show up. So it's like it depends on the judges themselves.
Yeah, I agree. From my personal experience, I don't think I knew that I was being judged at all during the whole session. So I think it's hard to tell because the judges are quite anonymous.
Yeah, I think some of them will directly tell you that
Oh,
they're,
really? Oh.
yeah, some of them will do that, but still it depends. Like some, I think most of them will keep that to be anonymous.
Exactly. Just to keep you on your toes for the whole session. I think another good tip, especially for the poster sessions, is please bring a lot of water because you will do a lot of talking. I don't know what the slot is, but it's around like a few hours, isn't it? It's like a few hours, and you're just talking constantly to new people, which is great because you're talking about your science, but you also need to take care of yourself. Um, Okay. So there are a lot of people asking what the criteria of like a poster or a good talk, and I would just like to signpost these links from the AGU 2024 um, website. I can send these links after the meeting in an email. Uh, but yeah, you should look at these because they have really good guidelines for posters and talks. Um, so there's a few questions on e-lightning sessions. Um, Avi, I don't know if you have done an e-lightning talk. I've asked Sifeng and Cecilia, and they haven't, but
I haven't either.
okay. But I think,
So,
yeah, go on.
Lindy, I had one when I attended one conference in Malawi,
Mm.
and it was just like you're given 2 minutes to explain your science,
Yeah.
and that's it. So,
Mm,
I'm not sure if AGU does the same thing, but the one I had was just 2 minutes, and that's
yeah.
it.
I think AGU from from this link they said it was a 3 minute lightning talk. And apparently you are giving this talk to like, is it like a machine or something and you get recorded or but you give your talk like amongst other people who are also giving talks. So that might be a really interesting but also noisy environment to be in. So just be prepared to do that. Um, okay. So there was a specific question that is if were to have two contributions within OSPA, do I also have to review two contributions? And I don't really know the answer for that. But what do you guys think?
Yeah,
Um,
so yeah,
no, go ahead.
yeah. So I think last year I just do two, so just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not entire. I don't remember this correctly, but I don't think like if you want to, be a reviewer for an OSPA session, I don't think you have to limit yourself to two. You can,
Yeah.
I think you can do up to three.
Yes. I think
Yeah.
that was the system last year. I don't know if that's changed. But they'll surely tell you in the OSPA guidelines. And I've also included last year's OSPA rubric. So this is a really useful, just like a rubric of what they're gonna look for, like visually and audio, like so that's gonna be a useful link. Okay. I guess with the 5 minutes that we have, we can very quickly open the Q&A. So Michael Clark asks, "Hey, does anyone know if when you're doing e-lightning and you don't use the iPoster template, so you just use your own PDF, does it affect your chance of winning an OSPA?" It's a very specific question, but I don't think so. I think it shouldn't, as long as you give your presentation well, right?
One of the things that I would like to point out in terms of e-lightning talks, I haven't done one, but I've attended a few. And one of the things that I did realize is that, as I think you mentioned, like it's a very specific like screen size and where you have your presentation uploaded. So I would be like if I was to do an e-lightning talk, I would just use their template because we don't really that's a very odd screen that they use. It's not, something that's very usual, like a six, like the aspect ratio that I'm talking about. So if as I said, be it like an e-lightning talk poster or whatever, make sure that you're using the total space that has been provided to you. So, in that case, I would just stick to whatever the template is. In that case, I don't think it affects your chances of winning, but I would say it increases your chances of winning if you use a template.
I think it's to err on the side of caution, right? Because you don't know how your PDF and your font sizes are going to translate to the iPoster template. And actually, because I did a poster as well in like a separate PDF where I printed out my poster and also did an iPoster template. It's really easy to translate your existing poster into an iPoster template. In fact, it's very easy, so it's not gonna waste your time. Um, let's see if anyone else has any questions. Um, I guess if no one has any questions in the few minutes that we have, I guess we can close, Albert.
Yeah. So again, I think we have tried to do the best, and you have heard the tips from the previous winners. So we really thank you for reserving this time for this workshop, and we hopefully think that we have gained some bit of insights from what's going to be happening, and maybe at a later stage, if you have some other questions, you can again get back to us, and we'll see how we can try to address those questions. Yeah, thank you so much,
Yep. Thank you,
all the
everyone.
volunteers, yeah, and everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.